And I think still, even nowadays, women still deal with issues in terms of their medical stuff not being taken seriously. I know my aunt's a nurse, and she's always told me about how women will come in with certain things and certain issues, and doctors, male, especially doctors, will kind of put it off as something that's not as serious as it actually is. So I think in that term, in that spectrum, especially in the story, women still deal with it today as they were dealing with it in the earlier 19th century. Although maybe it's not as bad, I think women still deal with it even nowadays. Um, and also with male, like, even in my life, like, you're supposed to be seen, male are supposed to be seen as the ones who don't deal with mental health. When, you know, a lot of men deal with depression, anxiety, and all that stuff, but in society, it's supposed to be seen as something that men don't deal with. And so I think, that's why a lot of people deal with it like very harshly is because society treats it as something that's not important when it's something that affects not only women but male as well. And I think it comes harsher to males because they're supposed to be seen as like toxic masculinity stuff and the alpha male stuff, and so it's like seen as like something that's not real or not true. And even in my life, like my parents thought like I was delusional dealing with that, and so even in terms of my side, like it was hard for me to talk about it, and I've never told really anybody about it because it's seen as something that's like weak or that's like not serious, and I think it should probably be taken more seriously. I think we wouldn't deal with issues like that as severe if people took it more seriously. Thank you. Hi, my name is Ryan Badawi, and I've chosen the text The Yellow Paper by Charlotte Parkins. The text was first published in 1892. The story is written in the first person and follows the narrator, a woman who appears to have postpartum depression and is confined to a room with yellow paper. I feel like I understand how the woman feels as someone who went through hypochondria, which is which makes you feel like you have an illness which is non-existent. Dealing with hypochondria, I feel trapped in my room, obsessing with an illness that I might have. Even though years later the illness has not affected me, this happened to me the summer of 2018. As the story progresses, the narrator becomes increasingly obsessed with the wallpaper, which she describes as having a sickly, sulfurous color and a pattern that seems to change and move. In my case, I became obsessed with YouTube. It was the only thing that made me get my mind off of hypochondria. So I think with her, it was how she's obsessed with the wallpaper and stuff. For me, it was YouTube. Like, I would watch videos, and it was particular videos. It was a lot of gaming videos, would get my mind off of it. But even within YouTube, it was like I couldn't just watch anything. It was like specific videos I'd watch, and it was almost um, like a steroid that would help me, or like, you know, something that would like relieve it. But it was super temporary because it never really like solved it. It was just kind of like a temporary thing that would get my mind off of it. But really, as soon as I would turn off YouTube, my mind would be back on the hypochondria, and it was like a never-ending thing that I was dealing with. She begins to see a woman trapped behind the wallpaper and becomes convinced that the woman is trying to escape. As my hypochondria progressed, it worsened. It not only began to affect me during the nighttime from around 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., then it started to affect me in the mornings. I was unable to sleep, afraid I would die in my sleep. So I felt as though if I stayed awake, it wouldn't affect me, which sounds odd, although to me a comforted situation. So for me, it was like if I stayed up at night, my mind would think like I was less likely because I had sharp chest pain. So I thought if I stayed up, well, I wouldn't really die. So it never was it never was anything serious. It was a pulled muscle. I went to the ER to get that checked out, and it was a pulled muscle. And even after that, I was still thinking that the doctors were lying. I was thinking that maybe they're thinking that um, that I might die in 2 weeks, but they just don't want me to know. And I was thinking about stuff like that, like they were lying and stuff like that. So even after I got a check, it still was affecting me. So yeah, the narrator's mental state deteriorates further. She becomes more fixated on the wallpaper and the woman she sees trapped behind it. Relating to the narrator, my mental health also went down. I began to seclude myself from my family and constrain myself to my room. The story is often seen as a treatment of women's mental health in the 19th century with regard to mental illness. The story is widely interpreted as a commentary on the male-dominated male profession on the treatment of women's mental health. So, I think the story really is relatable to